Holy crap, what a day this has been. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I normally, just open up and tell you that, who I am and what I'm doing. But, I mean, I have been sitting here witnessing things that I just, I can't imagine. Things that have, and as long as I've been around as a reporter, I've never seen. Things are happening in Washington at a fast and furious rate. It's almost, you have, every 10 minutes the headline changes. And there is a continual drumbeat in Washington now that's getting louder and louder and louder. That asking, suggesting, imploring that Joe Biden step down, or at least, step down from his plan to run for a re-election. I mean, there's some who think that he needs to step down as president. That's how this thing has gone negative for Joe Biden since that horrendous debate performance. And it's not one of these stories that's going away. My old friend Sam Donaldson used to talk about scandal, and I wouldn't call this a scandal. I would call this a constitutional national crisis, that we have a president who may not be able to actually make the national security decisions that need to be made to keep us safe. I mean, that's where we are right now. We're talking about a president who many people are now reporting has had many, many episodes. I mean, when you see a story that says, well, the president is reliably engaged between 10 and 4, that doesn't make me feel particularly good. Because, when things go south, it's usually 11 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning. And if he's not reliably engaged during those hours, that is not reassuring to me or to you or to anybody within the sound of my voice. Put the partisan stuff aside for a moment. We have a president who may not be able to make decisions to protect us. We have a president who is not able to. This is the man who has his finger on the button. This is a man who needs to be able to respond in a matter of moments with clarity and to make absolutely important decisions. And I'm not sure he's up to the task anymore. I mean, we've all seen it. The White House tries to tell you that it's nothing there. He had a bad night. Don't read too much into it. No. He's fine. Don't believe what you saw. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm worried, not as a conservative who, wants to see somebody else elected. I'm worried as an American today. I am deathly afraid of what we have on our hands, and nobody seems to be willing to acknowledge that, the emperor has no clothes, or in this case, the president has no brain. It's scary. Now, to bring you up to date on things that have happened, we now have the first sitting member of Congress to come forward and say he's got to drop out of the race. And this is a guy who's been around a while, 77-year-old Lloyd Doggett, a Democrat from Texas, the first sitting House Democrat to go public with a call for the president to step aside as the party's standard bearer in the aftermath of the last week's debate. This from the New York Post. Doggett, 77, lauded Biden's track record as commander-in-chief, but stressed that many Americans have indicated dissatisfaction with their choices in this election and implied that keeping on the ticket threatens the possibility of Donald Trump winning. I represent the heart of a congressional district once represented by Lyndon Johnson. Under very different circumstances, he made the painful decision to withdraw. President Biden should do the same, he said in a statement. Well, that's sending reverberations through Washington, but he's not the only one to suggest that something is awry with our sitting president, our current president of the United States. Nancy Pelosi, of all people, one of his most reliable allies, says she understands why people are asking questions and thinks, well, maybe he does need to undergo some testing.
Now, again, I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition? And so when people ask that question, it's completely legitimate. of both candidates.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you want Trump to take a cognitive test, I think he's happy to do that. He's already done it, he says. James Clyburn, a Democrat, again, one of Biden's most reliable allies in the whole world. In fact, it can be argued that Joe Biden would not be the president without the support of James Clyburn in South Carolina. These two guys go way back. And he's already talking about, well, whatever we do, we can't go around Kamala, which is, basically saying, yeah, I'm already thinking 2 steps ahead. I mean, let's think about how we're going to go forward here. And he's all concerned about Kamala.
I will support her if he were to step aside. But I want to support her going forward at some time in the future. I want this ticket to continue to be Biden-Harris. And then we'll see what happens after the next election.
Well, I mean, what he's suggesting is if Biden can get through the election, then he can after the election, perhaps he could step down and make Harris the president. Oh, joy.
No, this party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris. We should do everything we can to bolster her, whether it's in second place or at the top of the ticket.
All right, so there you go there. Whether he's already considering the possibility that this is going to happen. His most reliable ally in the whole world is James Clyburn. And he's already thinking that there's going to be a change, that there needs to be a change. Again, the drumbeat got louder and louder last night when vaunted journalist Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein, history. We're going back, to the Nixon tapes and all of that. Carl Bernstein goes last night on CNN with Anderson Cooper and talked about his reporting on this matter, which is not good. He says, I've talked to a lot of people who have real serious concerns here.
What are you hearing?
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, have been among them are some people who have raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. And what's so significant is the people that this is coming from, and also how many people around the president are aware of such incidents, including some reporters, incidentally, who have witnessed some of them. These people who have supported him, loved him, campaigned for him, see him often, say that in the last 6 months particularly, there has been a marked incidence of cognitive decline and physical infirmity.
What I wonder about is the people who were, working with him at Camp David, allegedly in this intensive debate prep, if there were concerns there about this, didn't anybody see something?
Well, the debate prep was supervised by Ron Klain, who has been with President Biden for many years. And people I've talked to have all been to Ron Klain in the last year to say, we have a problem. We have a problem such as we saw the other night, that there have been numerous instances where the president has lost his train of thought, can't pick it up again. There was a fundraiser at which he started at the podium, and then he became very stiff, according to the people there, as if it were almost a kind of rigor mortis. This was a year ago almost exactly, and he became very stiff, and a chair had to be brought for him to do the latter part of the event. I think that what these folks are saying, and have been saying for a while, is, yes, he's great when we see him, but he also has these inexplicable moments that we're very concerned about, and you, Ron Klain, and the First Family, we need to talk about this, and they've been pushed back repeatedly whenever it's been brought up.
Carl Bernstein again. Now, at the White House today, Karine Jean-Pierre walked into the room, and I'm telling you, that's a briefing like I have never seen. I mean, it's been respectful. It's not been people shouting and hollering and screaming. But the questions have been unbelievable. I mean, that this question gets asked in the White House briefing room should concern every American.
Given the reporting in the New York Times and other outlets about the president's more frequent lapses, losing his train of thought, all of us saw what happened on Thursday, where he simply could not form coherent answers to many or some, if you will, of the questions, and appeared to lapse into nonsensical answers at the end. We beat Medicare, for instance. I'm going to ask something delicate, and you may not like it. The president may not like to hear it if he's watching, but I think the American people need to get a yes or no answer on this. Does President Biden, at 81 years old, have Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, or degenerative illness that cause these sorts of lapses? And it's a yes or no question. And if you don't know, why don't you, as one of his senior staff members, know?
I have an answer for you. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
It's a no. And I hope you're asking the other guy the same exact question.
Okay, the answer is no. I would point out she's really not qualified to answer that question. And they haven't really done the cognitive test to actually get that answer. I mean, you know, this is the thing. He had his annual physical in February, and they came out and said, you know, he's capable of doing the job. And people asked, well, how did he do on his cognitive test? And they said he didn't take one. And they say, well, why didn't he take one? Well, because they say it's not necessary for him to take one right now. Well, so you don't really know. Nobody at the White House knows the answer. I mean, I think they know the answer, but they don't really know the answer because they've not done the tests. And you know, this is like they have circled the wagons, the political wagons around this guy to protect him. And to beat back on any question, anybody raises any questions, you know, they go through, well, look at his record. Look at all that he's accomplished. The most successful. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't buy any of that stuff. But he's accomplished so much. Look at what he's done. No, you know, those things could all have been done by staff. How do you then say he's responsible for all that stuff? I mean, it's his administration, I suppose. And that way it is, I guess, his responsibility. And he can claim credit for them, but you know, I would say that there are a lot of things that have real questions. I mean, Jackie Heinrich, who, by the way, almost went around her in the first round. Normally, you go in the White House briefing room, you go through all of the front row. Those are the people who represent the wire services and the major networks, et cetera. And she sits there on the front row, and they went around her the first time. Finally, came back to her. And she was asking questions about, you know, you keep telling us that everything's okay, but this is an administration that has time and time again told us don't believe what you see.
The administration strongly criticized the media for clips showing the president appearing to be confused, freezing at times, and you called it cheap fakes, misinformation, disinformation. In one case, even implied that it was the product of artificial intelligence, calling it deep fakes. Do you have any regret over using that language?
Not at all. Not at all. And let me be clear, it was a certain part of the media. And, I mean, you can speak to this better than I can. A certain part of the media which was doing this. And the cheap fakes didn't come from me. I didn't coin that. That didn't come from this White House or this podium. That came from the media. They called it cheap fakes. And they said this President Biden, was being targeted on misinformation. It was purposefully being done to this president. And what we did is we echoed that. So I don't regret it at all.
The administration's response to our questions often seems to be, don't believe your lying eyes. The border's secure. Afghanistan withdrawal was a success. Inflation's transitory. So is that going to change?
I mean, you just laid out, Jackie, a bunch of things. So just give me a second here. First of all, I think...
By the way, that was a great technique, shutting her off, because she was on a roll there. And it reminds people of all the failures of this administration. But let them continue.
I think this is a give and take, right? Even in this briefing room, we go back and forth. I go back and forth with you, with your colleagues, with everyone here. And I think we have a right to say if something we don't think is true or something we think we want to push back on. That is a right for us to do, just like you have a right to push me and say, actually, our sources are reporting say this. I think it's a give and take. This is what makes what we do in this room almost every day. This is an exercise of democracy. This is an exercise of freedom of the press.
Well, okay. I mean, she's about throwing a lot of tough questions today, and her answer seems to be: look at his record, and look at what we've accomplished. And I've never seen him. I've never seen any of the things that everybody else sees. They were pretty good though, and we'll play more of this as the show progresses because it was an unbelievable press briefing today. But I mean, it seems like that they're willing to say, sort of their take is. Yeah, I mean, we understand why people are asking these questions. And yes, we're going to be the first to tell you he had a very bad night. Not unusual, they say, for presidents who are incumbents to have bad first debates. He said Obama had one. And there's some historical record where incumbents don't have particularly good debates, but not always. A lot of the stuff out there where, we admit that there's a problem, that it didn't go so particularly well, had a cold. They keep talking about the cold, but the bottom line is they are covering up for a man who is in deep cognitive decline. And it's unavoidable. We're beginning to hear more and more about it. And the drum beats for him to either drop out as a candidate or perhaps resign as a president. I would not be surprised if something were to happen between now and this weekend. I mean, that's the pace at which these things are developing. It's just incredible what we are now witnessing. I've got a lot more. We got to take a break here. 22 past the hour. Busy bee when you need heat or cold AC. And right now, the thing you really need is cold AC. Is your air conditioner on the brink? Is it on the blink, I guess is the right word? Is it not working? Well, just call the number I would call, 615-775-7833. And the good folks at Busy Bee will buzz over to your hive and get you back up and running. And if you find it's finally, that old system is finally on its last leg and you need to do something about it, you're not going to find a better value on HVAC or plumbing replacement systems than the folks at Busy Bee. You need to become a member of the Beehive Club. Starts at $99. And for that, you get 3 maintenance services on all your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner, 615-775-7833 online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Donald Trump's hush money trial sentencing has been delayed, and a huge congressional ally of President Biden, he's ready to throw his support behind another Democratic candidate if necessary. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, there's so many stories floating around out here that surround Biden. And will he drop out of the campaign? Will the cabinet invoke the 25th Amendment? I mean, it's overload. It's like I've got so much stuff here. I've got a phone book full of stuff here that I printed off the World Wide Web today that I think is interesting stuff with this regard. Let me move quickly through some things that I think are important. There's more stuff here. ABC News announces that George Stephanopoulos has the exclusive first television interview with Joe Biden since the debate. They will air clips on Friday, July 5th, and then they will have an extended interview Sunday on This Week, their Sunday morning, talk show. And so this is the first time, and this is strategy, because they think, well, we need to get him out there. We need to prove. I mean, Biden is desperate to prove that he's still able to do the job and that he's got his faculties together. So, and here's the thing. They have chosen the most easy interviewer that they could. I mean, George Stephanopoulos. Let's just be admitted. I, on a personal level, really like George, but George is not really a journalist. George is a Democrat and an operative, and a very good one, parading as a journalist. And he's going to be I guarantee you, a very sympathetic thing. And quite frankly, I want to make sure that Joe Biden that ABC News puts out the raw interview, not the unedited version, not the edited version, which they've cleaned up all his mistakes. We've got to see the raw tape. And if they're not willing to do that, I don't believe anything that comes out of that interview, because they've gone to a guy that they know is going to be a sympathetic ear. So there is that. Biden is going to meet personally with Democrat governors. It may be virtually, not personally. I'm hearing a lot about this. There was a phone call involving Democrat governors last night, and they were, saying we got to make a change. And there's been a lot of reporting about this. Biden's senior aides, according to the Washington Post, have been furiously calling up top Democrat leaders and donors. But apparently, as of Tuesday morning, had not spoken with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries. The relative silence is added to Democrats' anxiety at a time when many have been looking for reassurance from the president. CNN's Dana Bash reveals Biden war room may urge the president to drop out if the polling craters, and they said there's a feeling of desperation. I will tell you that the numbers do look like they may be cratering for Joe Biden, and we'll have more about that in the 4 o'clock hour. Right now, time for the news with Jay Harper.
Good afternoon. It's 3:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Sunshine, 95 degrees, a complete weather forecast, and another traffic report coming up. Donald Trump's sentencing in his Manhattan hush money trial now postponed to September after prosecutors agreed today that the historic event should be delayed in light of the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling granting presidents immunity for official acts. Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan approved prosecutors' request to push back the July 11th sentencing in the case so that he can rule on Trump's claim that prosecutors inappropriately used trial evidence from the former president's time in the White House. Merchan said he would make a decision on if and how the immunity ruling affects the case by September 6th, and that the sentencing would take place September 18th if still necessary. Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, a top Biden ally, said today that he would support Vice President Kamala Harris should his friend Joe Biden decide not to run again.
While Clyburn said he'd like Joe Biden to stay at the top of the ticket with Vice President Harris in the number 2 slot, he then told MSNBC this.
I will support her if he were to step aside.
Clyburn adding if Biden does step aside, Democrats, he says, should rally around the vice president.
This party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris.
The comments come after a CNN poll in the wake of President Biden's shaky debate performance that shows Harris performing better against Trump than the president.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Oh, let's talk about my good friends over at DT McCall, man. They've been around in Middle Tennessee as a family-owned business for more than a century. That is so astonishing, and that doesn't happen very often. And I think it happens because they have a reputation. It's sort of ingrained in all those McCalls to, have run a business where they deal with you honestly and forthrightly. And they sell great stuff. Much of it is made in Middle Tennessee. Whenever possible, they try to do that because they like to keep their local dollars in Tennessee. And you should too. Why go to a big box store when you can go to a store where the dollars will stay right here in Middle Tennessee and help Middle Tennessee families? That's right. 5 locations, 5. There's got to be one near you. You can just go to the website to find out more about that. If you need furniture, if you need appliances, if anything that you can think of that you might need to set up your home or make your house a home, DT McCall's probably can help you out. Furniture, appliances, you need a mower. Man, I got on my Cub Cadet mower today and I got it done. I mean, that thing is a beast, and you'll love yours if you get one at DT McCall's. 5 convenient locations. Find out more about what they can do for you by going to the website, dtmccalls.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, californiaclosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, californiaclosets.com.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour at 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this incredibly busy news day. Tick, 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 tick. Boy, I'm wondering how much longer Joe Biden can remain the nominee of his party. And then I'm also wondering if he remains the president of the United States. And I say that not out of any glee. I mean, I think we are facing a real constitutional crisis in this country. And you know, we may not have a president who is capable of making the decisions that must be made sometimes to keep Americans safe. I don't have that confidence, and I think the American people are losing confidence. We got so much to talk about with this regard. I could almost talk about this one topic for 4 hours. There's other news we need to get in, so let's move on. As long as we're talking though about that, the question is now being raised and openly discussed: who should be the next nominee for the Democrats if it's not going to be Biden? And I think you have to. I don't see any other way around this in many regards. Many people believe it would have to be Kamala. Now, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with Kamala being the nominee. Although I've got a poll here done by SRSS, which is a polling company that takes a look at how a bunch of different Democrats might compare to Donald Trump if they were to become the nominee. She actually has the best chance. Now, in a matchup between Harris and Trump, right now, according to this poll, Trump would win by 2. That's general election number. Newsom, Trump would win by 5. Buttigieg, Trump would win by 4. Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan is a name that's been tossed out there. Trump would win by 5. 7 in 10 voters say they think they would have a better chance without Biden. 7 in 10. 70% of voters think that anybody but Biden would give them a better chance against Trump. And now, here's the thing. The current president of the United States, if you look at a CNN poll that came out the other day, and this was an eye-opening poll, CNN says that if it were Trump-Biden today, Trump would win by 6. In other words, he would do worse than Harris, Newsom, Buttigieg, and Whitmer. So, you know, people may be right. 7 in 10 people may be right that, in fact, another candidate would give them a better chance. So, I mean, when you start to look at these numbers, you got to wonder how long Democrats are going to stand by, because they, you know, the one thing we know about Democrats is that they are unified in only one thing: their hatred of Trump. And they will do anything to stop him from becoming president again. And I do mean anything. I have other numbers which I'll share with you in the 4 o'clock hour. Here's a story from the Wall Street Journal. Why Kamala Harris would be Biden's likeliest replacement. Let me read a little bit of this. So far, Biden has shown no interest in exiting the race, following a halting debate performance that raised questions about his age and abilities. But while some Democrats ponder a variety of governors or lawmakers who could step in as the nominee, the likeliest alternative to the current ticket remains one led by Kamala Harris. While that path carries risk because Harris' polls numbers are roughly as lackluster as Biden's, she is popular enough among Democrats, particularly among women and black voters, that casting her aside would cause resentment and division within the party. To that point, here is Democrat delegate Areva Martin. She's a delegate to the convention, being interviewed by Stephen A. Smith on his podcast. And she says, you go around Kamala, you do so at your own peril.
First of all, Stephen, who are we agreeing? There's a long list of Democrats: Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer. The list goes on and on and on. You've named 4 or 5 people. Where is their consensus? You've got to build consensus, and there is not consensus right now. If you pick a white man over Kamala Harris, black women, I can tell you this: we're going to walk away. We're going to blow the party up. If you pick the black woman...
Where you going to walk away to, Areva? Where you going to walk away to? You going to walk away? You ain't going to walk away to Trump?
over Kamala Harris. So where are we getting agreement from on who this ideal Democratic candidate should be? Tell me that. Nobody's told me who it should be. And then tell me how you're going to get the 4,000 delegates, which I am one of them. I'm a delegate coming from California. So who's going to step out? One, tell Joe Biden you got to step aside. Because everybody's not being mature about this process.
And there's this story, which I've been talking about for some time now, that I think really does. It's not unimportant. Vice President Kamala Harris is first in line to control tens of millions of dollars in President Joe Biden's campaign coffers if he decides to drop out of the 2024 race, according to his campaign manager, Julie Chavez Rodriguez. But experts say that will depend on whether she becomes the Democrat Party's nominee. She stressed during a call between campaign donors and aides that he doesn't intend to go anywhere, but if he does, Harris would take control of most of the account's funds, which total $91.2 million at the end of May. There is some confusion among campaign finance experts about whether Harris will gain access to the money if she remains a vice presidential nominee, if another person is picked to replace Biden on the ticket, though. But, I mean, according to some people say that she has the first dibs on all of the money that has been collected. That is pretty important, as you know. You can't run a campaign without millions of dollars. I also saw a headline on Fox a little while ago. Some Democrat donors were seeking a refund. Isn't that something? Here are 7 Democrats now being openly floated as potential Biden replacements. Kamala Harris, number 1. We've talked about her. Gavin Newsom. If Harris were to be passed over, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, according to thehill.com, would almost certainly be at or near the top of many Democrat delegates' lists to be the nominee. Newsom has become one of the most prominent Democrats in the country, they say, in part because of his defense of Biden and his sparring with prominent Republicans. Despite ongoing speculation of Newsom having presidential ambitions, he has repeatedly denied interest in running for president in 2024. Gretchen Whitmer, Michigan governor, came to office in 2018, boosted by the slogan, "Fix the damn roads." You need a lot of roads to be fixed in the state of Michigan, which put a pragmatic focus on repairing the state's infrastructure. Her easy re-election in 2022 brought with it Democrat majorities in the state House and the Senate, marking the first time in decades that Democrats had the trifecta in Michigan. She's been able to notch key victories, including the repeal of the state's old abortion ban and right-to-work law to prop up unions. Pete Buttigieg, transportation secretary, relatively unknown when he first ran for president, but gained traction in popularity as Mayor Pete. And he became a close advocate for Biden throughout 2020, culminating in his selection as transportation secretary. Buttigieg's youth would also be in sharp contrast to Biden, despite having less experience than some other rumored possibilities. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro gradually rose to higher office in his home state before being elected state attorney general, eventually the governor in 2022. He has developed a reputation over his career as a more moderate Democrat. He was elected after running on key liberal issues like protecting abortion rights and raising minimum age. J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, already set to receive some attention next month as the host of the Democrat National Convention in Chicago. Along with his rising national profile, could yield some support for his name to be placed in contention for the nomination. Pritzker is in his second term as head of the strongly Democrat-leaning state. Has been an ardent defender of Biden throughout the 24 campaign. Here's one for you. Kentucky folks, listen up. Andy Beshear. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear pulled off an impressive re-election victory in this ruby red state last year, improving his margin by a few points over his first election in 2019. Beshear addressed the possibility of Biden being replaced Monday, telling reporters he will support Biden as long as the president remains the Democrat nominee. The debate performance, he said, was rough. It was a bad night for the president, but he is still the candidate. So, I mean, what's amazing is that you can look in any major publication that covers politics, and you're going to find a similar story. It is openly being discussed. I mean, the things that I've heard today being openly discussed in a serious, I mean, it's not just a sort of an inflammatory way. It's an actual serious discussion. Do we need to replace this guy as our standard bearer running for reelection? And openly discussing, who is going to be the better choice when, not if, Joe Biden steps aside as the nominee. Now, Biden, I don't get the sense Biden's ready to do that yet. But I got to tell you, if he meets with the governors, the Democrat governors, virtually and gets an earful, I mean, I think those Democrat governors are going to go in there and speak truth to power. And in a way that apparently, very few people do to Joe Biden. They tiptoe. I mean, I've been around presidents. I've been around presidential staffs. They tiptoe around. There's a great deal of deference given to the president. I mean, it's like, this is our guy. We're here to support him. We wouldn't have our jobs if it weren't for him. There's a great deal of deference given. But I mean, I think that it is reaching, here's the term, critical mass. It is reaching critical mass. And it seems like to me that we are, I mean, almost certainly something is going to happen. What is it going to be? How is it going to unfold? Nobody knows. I mean, you can't predict this stuff. I mean, we all saw it coming. We all knew that there was a problem. But now, following the debate, and as I will get into in the 4 o'clock hour, these numbers, which are starting to go south even worse for Biden, I think it's the tick-tock. It's the drip. No, drip. Fat fingers. The constant drip, the drumbeat is now happening. As my friend Sam Donaldson used to say, there is blood in the water and the sharks are circling. It's really true. I mean, and it's just a matter of time. He may not realize it. They may still try to get into the White House briefing room and defend him until they don't. And like I say, there will be a moment where it reaches critical mass, and Biden will have to look himself in the mirror and realize that he needs to step aside. Now, I don't know if he'll step aside as president. I think it's time for that to happen as well. And before I move on, I hear people out there screaming at the radio, but we don't want another candidate. We want to run against Biden. It's out of our hands. I said a long time ago, I can't imagine that the Democrats are going to stick with Biden. And I think I'm going to be proved right on that. And I said it a long, long time ago. It's just that they look at this guy, and if he's not able to get it across the goal line, and it's increasingly looking as if Trump is getting stronger and he is getting weaker, and that is really what they care about. They don't care a whit about whether the man has his brain power or his wits about him. They care about losing this election. That's what they truly care about. I'm concerned about the president's mental ability. They're concerned about the election and who will be the next president of the United States. But it's out of our hands. I mean, and I've said a long time ago, don't get too wedded into this idea that Biden's going to be the nominee, because I don't think he will be ultimately, and I think I'm going to be proved right. 52 minutes now past the hour.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
The White House continuing to work hard to stop the bleeding after President Biden's debate debacle. Donald Trump's sentencing in his Manhattan hush money trial now postponed, and utilities are being shut down in parts of California. We'll tell you what that's all about. That's all coming up at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 58 minutes past the hour. Let's take a look at the markets. Dow Jones Industrials up 162 points. S&P up 33. NASDAQ up 149 points today. All screens are green. And in the world of economics, everybody's paying close attention to some comments made by Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Ty Draper is standing by over at Beacon Capital Management for more on that. Good afternoon, Ty.
Yeah, hey, Brian. The S&P closed above 5,500 for the first time ever, bolstered by some encouraging talk from the Fed chair on the fight against inflation. Fed Chair Jay Powell expressed overall satisfaction with the progress in the fight, as May numbers indicated a 2.6 rise year over year versus a year ago when inflation paced over 4%. And if we think just 2 short years ago back, inflation rates rose higher than the Carter era. Powell dodged questions concerning a September rate cut and whether the upcoming election would have had any bearing, commenting those were just talking points and they're just focused on doing their job.
All right, thank you, Ty. I appreciate it. And to find out what Ty and John Maxon and all the good people over at Beacon Capital Management can do to help you get ready for your retirement, just give them a call at, actually, why don't you just go to their website, askbeaconnow.com. It is 59 minutes past the hour. Let me tell you about the folks over at Restoration Wellness and Med Spa. Listen, let the team over there help you achieve, your weight loss goals. Restoration Wellness is the leader in weight loss management in Wilson County. So why don't you give them a call today? Here is their number, 615-470-8124, or visit them at their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com, to book a consultation today. Now, I've gone through the process, and I can tell you it is working for me. Every morning when I get on the scales, I am a happy man because it's going down, down, down. My friends Carly and Jamie will take good care of you. Like you're one of your own, a member of the family. You can be part of the 1,000 patients who've already seen life-changing results from the weight loss management program. Weight loss can increase your energy levels, improve your quality of sleep, and enhance your overall health. And by the way, these are customized treatment plans. They don't assume that just one program works for everyone. They'll make the adjustments that need to be made. Restoration Wellness considers your unique needs, your lifestyle, and your goals. So whether your goal is to lose stubborn body fat or to improve your overall health, Restoration Wellness has a solution for you. Learn about the newest technology in weight loss management. Go to their website, restorationwellnessmedspa.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Good afternoon. It's 2 minutes past 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly sunny and hot. 96 degrees on Music Row. A complete weather forecast and the latest traffic report are upcoming. President Biden giving his first post-debate interview to ABC News on Friday. He's going to sit down with George Stephanopoulos that day. It comes amid growing questions about his abilities after his disappointing debate performance. ABC's Rachel Scott asking White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre about a question raised by former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Pelosi said it's a legitimate question to ask if this is an episode or is this is a condition. Which one is it?
Well, what I can tell you is that he had a cold and a bad night. I would not see this as an episode. I would see this as what it was and what we believe it to be, which is it was a bad night. And he did, on top of that, he had a cold.
Turning now to Donald Trump's hush money trial. His sentencing in that trial now postponed to September after prosecutors agreed today that the historic event should be delayed in light of the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling granting presidents immunity for official acts. Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Juan Merchan approved prosecutors' request to push back the July 11th sentencing to another date so that he can rule on Trump's claim that prosecutors inappropriately used trial evidence from the former president's time in the White House. Merchan said he would make a decision on if and how the immunity ruling affects the case by September 6th, and that the sentencing would take place September 18th, quote, if it is still necessary, unquote. Well, on the West Coast, the lights and air conditioning are being turned off in parts of the Golden State because of wildfire danger.
With the goal of preventing wildfires, Pacific Gas and Electric has now started shutting off power to about 12,000 Northern California customers are mainly in the wildfire-prone foothills of the Sierra Nevada and places like Lake Shasta and Butte counties. Red flag fire warnings are up because of extreme heat and wind to prevent power lines coming down and starting wildfires. For the last couple of years, when conditions warrant, PG&E cuts off the electricity.
Finally, back here in Nashville, a man has been arrested for allegedly punching another man, and that resulted in his death. This happening outside a Topgolf in East Nashville over the weekend.
Metro Police say 41-year-old Dehal Umesh was among members of Nashville's Nepali community attending a concert and was trying to break up a fight in the parking lot when he was punched, causing him to fall and hit his head. He was then kicked in the head. Umesh died this morning from his injuries. Police arrested 26-year-old Bishal Rai at his home in Antioch last night on an aggravated assault charge, but that's going to be upgraded to criminal homicide now that Umesh has died. Rai is being held without bond. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is exactly 9 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Glad that you're with us here on the drive. So glad that you could be with us. It is an incredibly busy news day. We got more stuff going on than you could shake a stick at. What does that mean, anyway?
I always wondered that. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to shake a stick at all of this stuff. There's so much going on. Let me just get this out of the way. This is big news for former President Trump. The sentencing on his convictions in that New York case, that the whole thing about the business documents, etc., 34 counts and found guilty in all of them. There is going to be a delay for the punishment phase of that. They have pushed it off until September 18th. September 18th, which, is well into the election season. And look, there's nothing out there now between now and, the convention runs August 15th. I'm sorry, July 15th through the 19th. And so there's nothing out there until September. All the other trials are pushed way back by that big Supreme Court decision. In fact, part of the reason why it's being pushed back, this other case, is because that Supreme Court decision may well have some impact on this particular case, and he's been given the opportunity to run that up and down the appeals process. So we'll see what happens there. But, that was supposed to happen on July 11th. Now we're being told it won't happen until September 18th. That there's no hurry. The DA's office didn't have any problem with it. Judge Merchan made that decision this afternoon. So, again, the road right now for Trump is pretty clear. So, with that out of the way, let's begin our 2024 update. Again, a lot of it is having to do with what's on the Democrat side of the equation and questions about whether or not Joe Biden will remain the nominee. There's even questions out there about whether or not Joe Biden will remain the president of these United States. But one way or the other, there's some other big campaign news that we need to go through. And again, I won't bore you with a lot of numbers, but these numbers, oh my gosh, we can't ignore them. There's something happening out there since the debate. The Democrats were worried that bad debate performance would show up in the polling numbers, and I see signs that that's starting to happen. Are you ready? I'm going to try to make this as simple as it is to understand, because I know numbers are difficult on the radio. CNN has a general election number. This is Trump versus Biden. And if that election were held today, CNN says that Trump would win by 6. 6, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so what about the 5-way number? When you add in, RFK Jr. and Stein and West, Trump would win still by 6, according to this brand new poll from CNN. By the way, the other day, Harvard-Harris had a poll that had Trump winning in the general election in the 2-way matchup by 4. But if you looked at the 5-way matchup, they had Trump winning by 8 in the general election number. USA Today has Trump up by 3. But then you get every once in a while you get an oddball poll like this one. The tip poll, Biden up by 2. But what I'm seeing is growing numbers for Trump and weakening numbers for Biden in a big way. Now, that's not all. That's not all. Talk about your battleground states. We had a poll yesterday we told you about. Big poll had Trump up by 4 in Michigan. Now I got another poll from a company called Signal. That's Cygnal, Signal. Pennsylvania, Trump up by 4. So if he's up by 4 in Michigan, he's up by 4 in Pennsylvania. This thing is going south for Biden in a big way. Here's another shocking. When I heard this, I went, wow. We told you the other day that Virginia is now a toss-up state because there are polling data that now show it could be a tie in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Listen to this. New Hampshire is now a toss-up. It is now a battleground state. According to Real Clear Politics, they have taken New Hampshire and turned it from a blue state into a toss-up state. and because of some polling out there that came today from St. Anselm, which shows Trump up by 2. Trump up by 2 in New Hampshire. Ladies and gentlemen, holy moly. I mean, I don't see a lot of bad news for Trump anywhere. I see a lot of good news for Trump. I see a lot of bad news for Biden. And these numbers, again, tend to suggest that the debate has had an impact. 41% of Democrats, according to a USA Data poll, say they want Joe Biden to quit. They want him out of the race. 41% of Democrat voters want President Joe Biden to drop out of the 2024 race. A Monday USA Today poll found 51% want him to remain on the ticket. The poll represents one of the first post-debate polls that Democrats and operators will study to determine the total damage of Biden's candidacy following his debate performance. By a 5-to-1 ratio, the poll found former President Donald Trump won the exchange. Only 28% of Biden supporters said that he won. Only 24% of Democrats said the debate increased their support for Biden, while 9% said it made them want to support a third-party candidate. 64% of independents, this is key, paying attention here, 64% of independents, meanwhile, want Biden replaced on the ballot. 64%. When asked about the impact of the debate, 6% of independents said it made them more likely to support Trump, 9% more likely to support Biden, 17% said it made them more likely to vote for a third-party candidate. There's all that. Again, the headline out of that is a lot of Democrats now want Joe Biden to quit. That's why you're hearing the drumbeat, the drumbeat, the drumbeat, the drumbeat. 70% of voters have decided who they will back in November. More than 7 in 10 voters have already decided whom they will vote for in November presidential election, according to a new poll. This is a Harvard-Harris poll released Monday. Shows 72% of respondents said they've already made up their minds, while 28% say they are weighing their choices. That's a slight change from a May iteration of the poll that found 69% said they had found it. So we have 72%. I've seen other polls out there say 75% have made up their mind. Now, this is why I say that the lock is in many ways. I mean, it's an unusual election because we have Trump, who is a former president. We watched him for 4 years. We've had the opportunity to watch Biden for almost 4 years. So, I mean, each of these individuals is well known to Americans. They know exactly who Trump is, and they know what they're getting with Biden. And so I think that there was an early lock. It's not like, where you go through a process and you got, sometimes in a presidential election cycle, like Democrats will put up 10 candidates and Republicans will have up 9. And, you don't know, who's going to win it. And then the person who ultimately gets the nomination is sort of somebody new to most Americans. They got to learn about that person. That's not happening this time. You know who Trump is, and you know who Biden is. Now, what I'm reading into this is when they say that the 28% say they're still weighing their choices, this is the mushy middle mostly. Democrats are going to vote for Biden. Republicans are going to vote. So this 28% is about where we are in the middle. A lot of people say, well, I'm looking. I could go this way. I could go that way. 28% of voters trying to decide. It means that, it seems to me that you would say that, well, it's still up for grabs depending on what happens. Now, look, if Trump is going to be the Republican nominee, there's no doubt about that. That's going to happen in just a couple of weeks. That's going to happen. We'll find out who his running mate is, and I think people will look at that, and that'll be it. We'll be set. We don't know at all what's going to happen to the Democrats. Remember, they pushed their convention off until August 19th through the 23rd. And by pushing it back, they got some wiggle room. There's, by the way, going to be a virtual convention before that. And they ostensibly, that was to make sure that they could do something to get them on the ballot in Ohio before they actually all showed up for the Democrat convention in Chicago. And so now they've got some wiggle room and some time. And I mean, not a lot of time, not a tremendous amount of time if you're going to make a change. And that's why you're finding that the drumbeat is so intensive right now. There is a limited window here where something could be done. I still think that there's you've heard me say this before. I still think there's a possibility of their problem is solved with Biden if one thing happens. Somebody is in that number 2 spot that people trust and people like and people feel confident about. Right now, that person is Kamala, and she just doesn't have that kind of support. If you solve your Kamala problem, you solve the election problem because people will vote for Biden knowing they have a strong number 2. They won't vote for Biden if Kamala Harris is the number 2 and they don't like her. They don't have that confidence, right? So you need a strong number 2. You need to solve the Kamala problem. That's one way you keep Biden on the ticket, and you also then go forward and potentially have a chance of winning. I mean, it would be a very different equation if it wasn't Biden-Harris, but it was Biden-somebody else. We just finished up our Supreme Court term. I expect that any day we're going to hear that one of the Supreme Court justices has decided to tender her resignation. And I think that there will be an opening. And I think they could give that to Kamala. Doesn't change the mix of the court. I'm not crazy about her being on the high court, but she could be confirmed. And it's not an unimportant job. It's a pretty important job. It's a lifetime position, and it's better than being beaten. If you're Kamala Harris and you're looking with clear eyes at everything that's going on right now, you say, well, I got this potential lifetime appointment, or I could stay here and lose and be nobody. She's got to run that calculation in her head. And I think they might try to give her that role. And then they could put somebody else in there as the vice president and a running mate, and that solves their problem. That's one solution. One way it could be solved. We'll see what happens. 22 past the hour. King and Associates Insurance in Brentwood, an independent agency that has been in business for more than a quarter century out there in Brentwood. And trust me, you want an independent agency. You say, well, why, Brian? Well, because if you're doing business like one of the major companies, or you're one that sells insurance on the internet, a lot of people do that. Here's the problem with that is that they're just going to give you whatever they got. You say, I need car insurance. Okay, here's your car insurance policy. Take it or leave it. Home insurance, here's our home insurance policy, take it or leave it. But if you go to them, they can shop around and find an insurance rate or an insurance policy that's really good for you. Really good for you. So the end result of that is that by them being able to shop around as an independent agency, you are more likely to get a lot of bang for your insurance buck, which is what you want. You want the best insurance for the least money. Am I right? Of course I am. 615-329-8121. That's the number you call, and an actual human being, an actual live human being will answer the phone. You're not going to get a recording. You're not going to, none of that. You'll get an actual human being. And they will take care of your problem or get somebody on the line who can. Multi-policy discounts, 20, 25, 30, 35%, huge savings. So get your royal review today with King & Associates. Just go to tkinginsurance.com. That's tkinginsurance.com. King Insurance & Associates, royal treatment, and great rates.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Today's White House press briefing dominated by questions concerning President Biden's mental acuity. And today's closing money news is also coming up. That's all happening at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 27 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. Glad that you're with us. I want you to know that the President of the United States may be, reliably engaged between 10 and 4. That's what we heard the other day. Don't worry, he's reliably engaged between 10 and 4. 10 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He's great. I want you to know that I'm reliably engaged from 3 to 7.
Before or after that, all bets are off, right?
I mean, the only time that I'm not engaged is before I have my coffee in the morning, and then I'm.
Me too.
It's funny because can I just say, Cabana wife, she gets up very early. She's an early riser, and most days she's out the door to go to work. Some days lately, because she's had a few days off, she's been home, and she wakes up at like 5. Well, my alarm, I didn't sleep in. I got up at 7. It takes me a few moments for my eyes to focus after I've been asleep. Mm-hmm. And I slept hard last night, and so I'm awake. And we're having that conversation. I'm just trying to get through my focus. And she's, I got all these things, she's been up for hours. She's got all these things on her mind. And she's talking about this and talking about that. And I'm going, can I just have my cup of coffee, please? I love her. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. But it is one of those things that's that challenging point in the morning. I'm not fully engaged before I have coffee.
Yeah, the whole conversation that you just described happens to me at least once a week in my house. Wait a minute. You're just gonna have to slow down and give me a minute here.
And most days I can keep up with her, but not all the time. Listen, we're in an amazing time right now. And I said this as I was talking to Matt Murphy in what we call the Matt Chat. Where we were talking, before I come on at 3 o'clock. I don't think people understand how important what's happening right now is. That this is a time where we have, sort of a constitutional crisis going on, moving in very slow motion. I take no glee in saying that I think our president has lost his mind. I no glee in that at all. Do I want Trump to win? Yeah. Do I have a great care about who's the next president of the United States? Absolutely, just like you, I do. But this is something that's different. This is a national security concern. It's not just a campaign that's entertaining, fun to watch, and who knows what's going to happen. This is serious stuff on the world stage. I'm going to talk about that in the next half hour. Right now, time for the news, 4:30.
Good afternoon. It is 4:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly sunny, 95 degrees. A full forecast and traffic are on the way. At today's White House briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said more than a dozen times that the president just had a bad night in last week's debate. ABC's Molly Nagel, she was at the briefing room in the White House earlier today.
The White House argues President Biden's disappointing debate performance was simply a bad night and not part of a larger pattern.
We are acknowledging what people are seeing, but we do believe this was in this instance, it was a bad night.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre insists the White House has been fully transparent about the president's health.
Now we turn to today's closing money news with Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now stocks heading for record levels again. The Dow closed up 162 points. The S&P and the NASDAQ at all-time highs. The S&P up 34, the NASDAQ 149 on the plus side. Some encouraging news about inflation from the head of the Fed. Chair Jerome Powell taking part in a monetary policy conference panel discussion in Portugal. Says inflation is slowing again, but adds the central bank needs to see more movement toward the 2% target rate before it will consider cutting interest rates. Job openings rose slightly to 8.1 million in May, up from a revised 7.9 million the month before. Layoffs rose slightly, and the number of Americans quitting their jobs, a sign of confidence they'll find another one, was basically unchanged. Tesla sales fell for the second straight quarter despite price cuts and low interest financing offers, but the numbers were still better than analysts had expected.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the good folks over at Beacon Capital Management. A question for you. Are your retirement assets structured to minimize taxes? Could be hard to believe, but many hardworking Americans just like you could be overpaying on taxes in retirement. You could be taxed on your IRA, your 401k, any other tax-deferred retirement accounts. Beacon Capital Management, though, is here to give you peace of mind. With the threat of massive tax increases around the corner, your nest egg could be in trouble unless you take advantage of defensive tax-saving strategies and take advantage of them now. Defend your hard-earned retirement savings by scheduling a free retirement tax reduction analysis today. No cost, no pressure, no obligation. If you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement, don't wait any longer. Schedule your free retirement tax reduction analysis from Beacon. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. Or just visit their website, askbeaconnow.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It is 37 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Brian Wilson, hour number 2 of The Drive on a very busy news day. Headlines. The White House today was just insane. The White House briefing all these questions. Is the president, does he have Alzheimer? What kind of tests have been done? And, then you hear Karine Jean-Pierre say, he doesn't have Alzheimer's, but how would she know? Because they've never done the tests. When they do the annual physical, they did not do a cognitive test because, the doctor said, it's not really required, not necessary. Well, yeah, I think it is necessary at this point. And so it's, it's insane what's going on right now. And by the way, the other news is Trump's sentencing on that conviction out of New York has been pushed back to September 18th. So there's nothing on his horizon in a legal way. All the other cases have been pushed back. Everything else has dissolved or come apart at the seams. And that there's nothing really except that September 18th sentencing. And that'll be a day. That'll be, no matter what happens, it's going to be a story that day. But I don't really see that being a big story because immediately it will be appealed. So there's not much on his horizon. But as I was saying a moment ago, before we did the news, I am really concerned. There is no glee in my reporting about this because I think it really is something of a constitutional crisis. We need a president who can make a decision. And I don't think we have a president who's up to the task. If we were to have a Cuban Missile Crisis, if we were to have another 9/11, if we were to be attacked in some way, I don't think he's up to the task. And the number one job of a president is to try to make good decisions from a national security standpoint to keep us safe. That is I think the ultimate job of the president. And I just don't think he's up to it. Neither does the editorial board at the New York Post. I want to read an editorial that they wrote. This is from the Post editorial board. So that's what you call an unsigned editorial, but it comes from the entire editorial staff. Joe Biden's asleep at the national security wheel and Americans will die. Sort of grim, isn't it? As if in grim confirmation of all the worst fears summoned by President Biden's total public collapse Thursday night, now U.S. military bases in Europe are living under a terrorist threat. Sunday saw a slate of bases, including the Army garrison in Stuttgart, Germany, that serves as the seat of the U.S. European Command, raised to the second highest terror level issued by the Army. That only happens when intel regards an attack as, quote, likely, per the Army's alert policy. Nothing like the sight of the commander-in-chief of American forces staring vacantly into a camera and forgetting about the 16 U.S. soldiers who've died on his watch to embolden the nation's enemies. But as disastrous as Biden's debate performance was, it may not even have been the proximate cause of this new security threat. No, his record is more than enough for that. He humiliated himself while trying to entice Iran back into a nuclear deal, did nothing meaningful when their proxy forces struck American assets and killed American soldiers, and seemingly sided with Tehran after Hamas' October 7th atrocities. And he failed to seriously push Hamas to release the 5 U.S. citizens it has held since that day. Hard to imagine a clearer invitation to mayhem from bad actors than that. Even on American soil, the Biden administration seems not to care. In May, 2 Jordanian nationals, one of whom reportedly illegally crossed the border, tried to ram a box truck through the gates at the Quantico Marine Corps base in Virginia. The Biden response? Have Homeland Security Chief Alejandro Mayorkas block multiple requests for further information. Don't forget the 8, that's right, count them, 8 Tajik nationals, people from a country that is an utter hotbed of ISIS activity, arrested in a terror plot in June. At least one had illegally crossed the border and had been waved on by the feds. And Biden's cowering before China and his dithering on Ukraine, it's on and on and on and on. Even if the phone call comes during the 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. window when aides say he's functional, Biden's national security judgment stinks. And his now undeniable dementia. The rest of the day and night is an open invitation to America's enemies. It's only a matter of time before more American lives are lost on his watch. Is it supposed to be okay because he'll forget them too? Editorial from the New York Post. Here's a perfect example. I mean, first of all, I'm concerned. We got the Chinese really acting up in the South China Sea. I mean, the Chinese forces boarded a Philippine boat and beat people. Philippines is one of our big allies in that part of the world. We had a thing the other day where they do this all the time. The Chinese run these war games where they surround the island with planes and ships, the island of Taiwan. One of these days, it's not going to be a drill. One of these days, they're really going to go for it. And we have an obligation to defend Taiwan, which will put us face to face, nose to nose with the Chinese. Trust me, when they run these things, they're testing us. They're testing us, and we do nothing. We do absolutely nothing. The Russians are acting badly. Just to take Ukraine, for example. Ukraine would not have happened had it not been for our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Just wouldn't have happened. Putin took a look at what happened in Afghanistan and how badly that withdrawal was handled. That helped him form an opinion about President Biden. And he decided, okay, I can go into Ukraine. Nobody's going to stop me. That guy doesn't want to fight. Here's one. Just came in today. This from the Wall Street Journal. Satellite images show expansion of suspected Chinese spy bases in Cuba. Analysts identified 4 electronic eavesdropping stations, including a previously unreported site near a U.S. naval base. I guess that would be Guantanamo. Study from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, a Washington-based think tank, follows a reporting last year by the Wall Street Journal that China and Cuba were negotiating closer defense and intelligence ties, including establishing a new joint military training facility on the island and an eavesdropping facility. At one time, the journal reported that Cuba and China were already jointly operating eavesdropping stations on the island, according to U.S. officials who didn't disclose their location. It could be determined which, if any, of those are included in such a covered by the CSIS report. Concerns about the stations, former officials and analysts say, is that China is using Cuba's geographical proximity to the southeastern U.S. to scoop up sensitive electronic communications from American military bases, space launch facilities, and military and commercial shipping. Chinese facilities on the island could also bolster China's use of telecommunication networks to spy on the U.S. Citizens. The White House and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence declined to comment. Some of the sites described by CSIS, such as one at Bejucal, have previously been identified as listing posts. The satellite imagery provided new details about their capabilities, growth over the years, and likely links with China. The report comes amid growing concerns about great power competition in the Caribbean and elsewhere in Latin America, where Washington for decades has tried to prevent rivals from gaining military and economic advantage. China, did you know this, is building a megaport on Peru's Pacific coast. And Russia, meanwhile, recently sent a nuclear-powered submarine capable of firing Caliber cruise missiles and a frigate to Cuba's Havana Harbor, right off the coast of Florida. They cruised right past the coast of southern Florida in a provocative way. A nuclear-powered submarine with nuclear missiles aboard was literally just miles off the coast of Florida. They were testing. They're poking, they're prodding. The Chinese poking and prodding. What will the United States do? I say this, again, not with any glee, but we have a president who, on a good day, has had faulty national security sense about him. He doesn't have that ability to read the situation and understand what he should do. There's an old joke about Joe Biden, and it's really true. When he was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, when he was vice president, whatever Joe Biden says you should do in a situation involving national security, you should take the opposite view. You should do 180 degrees different than what he says. If he says do this, then you do that. You don't follow his advice because it's universally been bad. Remember, when he was vice president, and they're in the Situation Room, and President Obama is being given the readout on getting Bin Laden. Thank you. I'm sorry. Now I'm having my senior moment. We're doing the discussion. We have intelligence where Bin Laden is. We know where he is, and we're relatively certain that we can take him out. They went around the room. They talked to everybody in the room. And the last person to speak, and everybody said, yes, we should go for it. Yes, we should go for it. Yes, we should go for it. Everybody was in unison all the way around the room till they got to Vice President Biden. And he said, no, I don't think we should. Everybody told him, do not withdraw from Afghanistan. But this has been a bug up his butt for a long time. Afghanistan, he hated Obama's Afghanistan policy. He hated it. He completely spoke against it throughout, privately, of course, but throughout the entire Obama presidency. He kept telling Barack, you got to get out of Afghanistan. You got to get out of Afghanistan. And Afghanistan was strategically important. And Obama, say what you will about Obama, decided to stay in Afghanistan because he understood what was at stake here. The moment Joe Biden becomes president, he wants to get out of Afghanistan. He wants to prove everybody that he was right and Obama was wrong. He wanted to, this was going to be his definitive first move. Let's get out of Afghanistan. 13 people died. A horrible situation in Afghanistan. Remember those horrible days and those pictures of people trying to cling to aircraft to get out of the country? People died that day. Our American citizens died. We left people behind. On a good day, his foreign policy judgment is weak. And it's never, right now we don't have any good days. You marry his bad decision-making on foreign policy with the fact that his brain is only functioning at about 30%. And we are in danger. The New York Post editorial board has it exactly right. 50 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I want to tell you about some exciting news. If you've been around here for a long time, you know about URFARB. They've been in Middle Tennessee, the place to go for your European car repair now for 24 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business that takes off. Well, now the folks at URFARB are very proud to announce that they have a 5th location. It's in Mount Juliet, if you haven't heard by now, on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Now, URFARB can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and new location now in Mount Juliet. You know, it's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations repairing, you ready for this? Thousands of cars each month. At URFARB, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty, a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Call 844-URFARB. That's 844-URFARB or visit myurfix.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Today's White House briefing dominated by questions as to Joe Biden's mental acuity. Could Hezbollah now be ready for a ceasefire with Israel? And intense heat across the country, it's turned deadly. We'll have those stories at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, it takes a while for them to process, the government, these numbers about how people move about the country. But Tennessee saw the fifth largest population increase from other states between 21 and 22. During that time, they saw an increase of nearly 60,600 people, which meant that they got a net increase of nearly $4.7 billion in adjusted gross income on individual tax returns. So, I mean, you know, they made money, by the way. When people move into the state, they get more money because people are buying more goods and services, right? They saw 22,000 individuals during that time period move in from California. Between those 2 years, nearly 6,400 from Illinois. During that time period, for some reason, Tennessee did lose a few people to Georgia, of all places. I don't know.
There's some nice places down there.
I suppose.
I'm a little biased, though.
You might be.
Yeah.
All right. So anywhere, their Census Data Bureau, again, an 83,000 population gain from 21 to 22. Our population went up 1.2%. Listen, when we come back, we will reset, and I will tell you everything that has happened in Washington today and how the drum beats are getting louder and louder, that Biden needs to step away as the candidacy, and there's not an unimportant number of people saying that maybe he needs to step aside from the presidency and the campaign at the same time. 58 minutes now past the hour. You know, the weather is the time of year where you get around the grill. I mean, maybe the 4th of July, you're going to have a bunch of people over to cook burgers or steaks or whatever. Whatever it is, if you're a fan of Legend Steakhouse like I am, you can enjoy those same flavors right at home, right off your very own grill. Take a walk down your local grocery store aisle, places like Walmart, Kroger. Look for Johnny Fleeman's very own brand. Now, his proprietary blend will give your steaks, chicken, or chops a flavor that will hit a home run with family and friends. It's low in sodium, about a third of other brands. You don't have to worry about over-marinating. You can use his honey mustard salad dressing as a dipping sauce for your favorite chicken fingers or fresh cut veggies or chips, a recipe used in his restaurants for over some 35 years. If your favorite grocer isn't stocking Johnny Fleeman products, ask him to do so. For more information, go visit johnnyfleeman.com. And it goes without saying, for those times when you want someone else to do the cooking, they'll always be glad to see you at your nearest Legend Steakhouse for lunch or dinner.
The Guaranteed Offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Good afternoon. It is 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Plenty of sun, 95 degrees. A full forecast and a traffic report are on the way. At today's White House briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said more than a dozen times that the president just had a bad night in last week's debate. ABC's Molly Nagel, she was at the White House briefing earlier today.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the White House is absolutely not hiding information information about President Biden's health from Americans. The president's rocky debate performance has raised concerns about his ability to serve another 4 years in office. When asked repeatedly about whether the president would take a mental acuity test, Jean-Pierre said his medical team has decided that it's not warranted in this case.
Turning now to the Middle East, a top official in the Iranian-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon says the group is willing to enter into a ceasefire with Israel, but first there must be a ceasefire in Gaza. The conflict's on two fronts, starting to pressure Israel's military. Matt Gutman, he is in Tel Aviv with ABC News.
The Israeli military is trying to phase out the fighting in Gaza. They'll go in for high-value targets and specific raids against what they're calling Hamas hotspots. But they're asking the government to enter into that ceasefire because it solves two problems. Obviously, one, the fight in Gaza, which has lasted nearly 9 months, but also this brewing and possibly very devastating war with Hezbollah, the powerful Iranian-backed militia in Lebanon.
Back here in the U.S., extreme heat has been baking June like never before, and it is resulting in death.
June was the hottest on record in Phoenix. Almost half of the days in June were above 110 degrees. 111 deaths are being investigated now in Maricopa County by the medical examiner for possibly being heat-related. Last year at this time, 77 deaths were under investigation. Hospitals in the Phoenix area say heat-related visits have also gone up this year.
Back in May, Ticketmaster's parent company announced a data breach that they were investigating. We've got an update on that from Ken Weaver.
News Channel 5 says Ticketmaster sent a new warning to customers last night that a data security incident may have involved their personal information. The email says an unauthorized third party obtained information from a cloud database hosted by a third-party data services provider between April 2nd and May 18th. Emails, phone numbers, and encrypted credit card information may be included. The email says to watch your bank account for suspicious activity. The company is offering free identity monitoring service for a year. Ticketmaster says it's a good idea to update passwords even if you weren't affected. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, and as best I can tell, I am not cognitively impaired. But, it's an open question some days. Good that you're with us. We are trying to do our best to keep you up to speed on things happening in Washington, D.C., and things are happening fast and furious, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to tell you. Let's put it this way. In the distance, you can hear the drum beats. It's getting louder and louder. How long can Joe Biden hold on? How long can he remain the nominee? How long can he remain the president of the United States? Maybe not all that long. There's some pretty open questions here. And when I say the drumbeat, that means there's so many stories out there. It's coming by at a blur. We're trying to prepare for today's show was sort of like trying to drink a sip of water out of a fire hose, because there's so much out there. So much is happening so fast. I think it's pretty important. Now, I think perhaps the biggest news of the day is that a sitting Democrat member of Congress, not somebody who wants to run, not somebody who once was, this is an actual sitting member of the House of Representatives who is a Democrat from Texas, a very respected member of Congress. His name is Lloyd Doggett. Now, he's a progressive Democrat. He represents the same district once represented by Lyndon Baines Johnson when he was in the House of Representatives. Lloyd Doggett became the first sitting House Democrat to go public with an open call for President Biden to step aside as the party's standard bearer in the aftermath of last week's debate. Doggett, age 77, lauded Biden's track record as commander-in-chief, but stressed that many Americans have indicated dissatisfaction with their choices in his election, and implied that keeping him on the ticket threatens the possibility of Donald Trump winning. See, that's the thing that Democrats care about more than anything else. My decision to make these strong reservations public is not done lightly, nor does it in any way diminish my respect for all that President Biden has achieved. Recognizing that, unlike Trump, President Biden's first commitment has always been to our country, not himself, I am hopeful that he will make the painful and difficult decision to withdraw. Wall Street Journal has a story that I just downloaded here. Tight inner circle urges Biden to press on. The president has long relied on a small group of family members and advisors. Now they are counseling him to ignore critics and stay in the race. This circle has been resistant to any suggestion they should reconsider his candidacy, despite worrying signs that Biden could lose his rematch with the former president, Donald Trump. That criticism mounted on Tuesday when Representative Lloyd Doggett became the first to call for him to step aside in the campaign. Inside the White House and at his Wilmington, Delaware campaign headquarters, the president's advisors believe they have weathered much of the storm, while others think he has more work to do to shore up support. Aides note that Biden has been underestimated many times before, including in 2020, when he faltered in early contests in Iowa and New Hampshire, but still managed to win the nomination. He won it in South Carolina. He won it largely because there was a guy there by the name of James Clyburn who went out and said, I support this guy. It put him over the top in South Carolina. Today, James Clyburn is actively saying that, he's talking as if it's fait accompli, that there'll be a change. And his main concern, if there is a change, is in continuing to support Kamala Harris as the nominee.
I will support her if he were to step aside. But I want to support her going forward at some time in the future. I want this ticket to continue to be Biden-Harris. And then we'll see what happens after the next election.
Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I think what he's suggesting there is I want to continue to see Biden-Harris, because we all know that in the second term of Biden, Harris will eventually become the president of the United States. But let him continue.
No, this party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris. We should do everything we can to bolster her, whether it's in second place or at the top of the ticket.
But understand, by Clyburn even talking about the possibility, he is adding to sort of the chorus of people who say, so he's sort of suggesting that maybe that's something that's going to happen. Even Nancy Pelosi, who has been a steadfast supporter of Biden, admits that, there may be a problem.
Now, again, I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition? And so when people ask that question, it's completely legitimate of both candidates.
Chance, he wants to ask of both candidates, and, that's always the thing. Yeah, if you want to ask us, you got to look at him. Okay, well, we saw both of them on the stage. I think we did take a look at them, Nance. There is a lot going on behind the scenes. Here is legendary journalist Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein fame speaking on CNN to Anderson Cooper about exactly what he is hearing. He's doing some reporting on this. He said there are a lot of Democrats who think a change should be made.
What are you hearing?
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, have been among them, or some people who have raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. And what's so significant is the people that this is coming from, and also how many people around the president are aware of such incidents, including some reporters, incidentally, who have witnessed some of them. These people who have supported him, loved him, campaigned for him, see him often, say that in the last 6 months particularly, there has been a marked incidence of cognitive decline and physical infirmity.
What I wonder about is the people who were, working with him at Camp David, allegedly in this intensive debate prep, if there were concerns there about this, didn't anybody see something was amiss?
The debate prep was supervised by Ron Klain, who has been with President Biden for many years. And people I've talked to have all been to Ron Klain in the last year to say, we have a problem. We have a problem such as we saw the other night, that there have been numerous instances where the president has lost his train of thought, can't pick it up again. There was a fundraiser at which he started at the podium, and then he became very stiff, according to the people there, as if it were almost a kind of rigor mortis. This was a year ago almost exactly, and he became very stiff, and a chair had to be brought for him to do the latter part of the event. I think that what these folks are saying, and have been saying for a while, is, yes, he's great when we see him, but he also has these inexplicable moments that we're very concerned about, and you, Ron Klain, and the First Family, we need to talk about this, and they've been pushed back repeatedly whenever it's been brought up.
Carl Bernstein talking to Anderson Cooper last night on CNN about what he is hearing through his reporting. CNN's Dana Bash reveals Biden War Room may urge the president to drop out if the polling craters. Bash criticized the Biden campaign for putting out polling data showing the president leading another candidate against Trump, leading other candidates against Trump. She revealed Monday that conversations about President Biden's ability to win re-election will take a different shape if his polling plummets following his widely panned debate performance. Bash said those in Biden's inner circle are watching like hawks to see if his fundraising dries up. There have been some, apparently, who have asked for a refund on their contribution, or if potential voters turn on the president after they've had time to digest debate footage. It looks like the bottom fell out or even close to it. There will be different conversations. That was told to me by people very close to this process. They admitted it, which is why you saw an effort, a war room like I've never seen in Biden land. Well, let me just say, I want to save this for the 6 p.m. hour. But there are some signs that the polls are beginning to crater in a huge way. CNN has a poll out today that says if the election were held today between Trump and Biden, that Trump would win by 6. There was a Harvard-Harris poll that came out the other day that said Trump would win by 4 in the general election number. But if it were the 5-way number where you add, Westenstein and RFK Jr., that Trump would win by 8. These numbers are real. I mean, they're out there. I'm going to be honest with you. There are occasional polls. There's a tip poll out there that says Biden's still leading by 2. But the vast majority of polls that I see have Trump in the lead. And those are generally election numbers. Let's talk about, very quickly, as long as I've raised it, Pennsylvania. There's a battleground poll out of Pennsylvania by a company called Signal that says that he's winning in Pennsylvania by 4. By 4 in a battleground state, that if he wins by 4 in Pennsylvania, he is most definitely going to be the president. Michigan, we had one yesterday. Trump again leading by 4 in Michigan. And here's one. New Hampshire, a reliably blue state, is now a toss-up state according to Real Clear Politics. And there's a poll from St. Anselm that does great polling in the state of New Hampshire. Trump up by 2 in New Hampshire. Yeah, it's cratering. It's cratering. Let's see. I think the most impertinent question, but one that is on everybody's mind today in the White House briefing room was, is our president losing his mind?
Given the reporting in the New York Times and other outlets about the president's more frequent lapses, losing his train of thought, all of us saw what happened on Thursday, where he simply could not form coherent answers to many or some, if you will, of the questions. And here to lapse into nonsensical answers at the end. We beat Medicare, for instance. I'm going to ask something delicate, and you may not like it. The president may not like to hear it if he's watching, but I think the American people need to get a yes or no answer on this. Does President Biden, at 81 years old, have Alzheimer's, any form of dementia, or degenerative illness that would cause these sorts of lapses? And it's a yes or no question. And if you don't know, why don't you, as one of his senior staff members, know?
I have an answer for you. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
It's a no. And I hope you're asking the other guy the same exact question.
Yeah, no, there's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Jackie Henrick had a great question today about, that's what you say all the time. Nothing to see here. No, nothing to see here. Don't believe your eyes, what you saw at the debate. And by the way, don't believe what you saw in Afghanistan. Oh, by the way, inflation, it's transitory. I mean, you could go on and on and on with this particular administration. I've only begun to open up some of the things that I want to share with you on this. So try to stay right where you are. Got to take a commercial break, 20 minutes now past the hour.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hurricane Beryl, with its 155-mile-per-hour winds, now barreling toward Jamaica. And a Dixon man accused of stabbing his wife and setting her on fire. That's all coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I see what you did there, Jay Harper. Beryl is barreling.
Yeah, not spelled the same, but,
no.
you know.
It works. No, alliteration. It never gets old. It is. It goes up to. I think it's a category 4 now, I believe, right? And at one point, just a short time ago, it was a category 5.
Yeah, apparently the only category 5 this early in the Atlantic hurricane season on record.
By about 2 weeks,
yeah.
Which is on average, when you look at the average of these things, that's it may be a very rough hurricane season. This one looks like it's headed into Mexico, right through the Horn of Mexico. Maybe might turn a little back toward the tip of Texas, but it is coming down. It will not be as strong when it gets there, which is unusual because usually when they get into the Gulf of Mexico, the waters are warmer. And hurricanes tend, but for some reason, there's a shearing presence or something that will take the wind out of that hurricane sail. But still, to have a category 5, a Cat 5 hurricane this early, very, very unusual. I think we're going to have a tough hurricane season. Getting back to the conversation about what's going on in Washington, what's going on with Biden, they got to do everything they can to try to correct the problems that they have right now. And turning around this aircraft carrier is not going to be easy. To tell you, there is a momentum to this story that's going to be hard to stop. So he's going to go out there and he's going to do a big interview with George Stephanopoulos, probably the most sympathetic person they could turn to, a former Democrat operative and a good one, now posing as a journalist over at ABC for some time now. They turn to him because they know they can trust him. The only way I trust this interview is if they put out the raw tape. In other words, everything that happened should be posted online, even if you don't use it all. Now, I understand that for time purposes, they may not want to use everything that they get. That's often the case in interviews. But in this one, you got to wonder, is Stephanopoulos going to carry water for Biden in this interview? It certainly is. He is probably the most sympathetic. Give it to somebody like Bret Baier. Let Bret Baier have a crack at him. That would be a good interview. I don't have confidence that this is on the up and up, quite frankly. I just don't. All right, so there's that. The White House briefing today was just freaking brutal. There's no other way to put it. Here's a little sampling. This runs about 2 minutes, maybe almost 3 minutes, of Karine Jean-Pierre getting asked some very difficult questions.
Wondering if there's been any consideration given to releasing a more robust set of medical records or something to show his mental acuity.
So I will say this, look, and again, I get the question. It is a fair question to ask. We are not taking that away, and that's why the president certainly has spoken to this. As it relates to his medical records, we have been transparent. We have released thorough reports from his medical team every year since he's been in office. That is something that we have been pretty consistent about. As it relates to, something like a cognitive test, to the question that you're asking me about what the speaker, former speaker said. Obviously, she can speak for herself. His team, who has said, the medical team said it is not warranted in this case. We have put forward a thorough, transparent annual report on his health. So they have said that is not warranted. It is not necessary. Again, we understand. We're not taking away from what you all saw or what the American people saw. We understand. It was a bad night. It is not uncommon for incumbents to have a bad night on their first debate.
You just reminded us that President Biden had a cold on Thursday. What medications was he taking in the days or hours leading up to the debate?
And I know that question has come in a couple of times to us. He was not taking any cold medication.
After the debate, did the president get examined by a doctor or did he get a neurological scan?
A neurological scan? Look, what I can say is that, just to take a step back, It was a bad night. We understand that it was a bad night. And the president has spoken to this. And he understands that. And so I cannot speak to anything beyond what I just shared. The president has regular annual physicals that we release in a thorough report. We're going to continue to do that. I don't have anything else beyond that.
Okay, well, you continue to say it was just a bad night, but is there an explanation then for why it was so bad? If it's not his stamina, if he prepared, as you guys say, for so long, if it's not a problem with his mental fitness, what happened that night? What did we see?
I will also add that the president also spoke to this as well. He said, I'm not as smooth as I used to be. I don't debate as well as I used to. I don't walk as easily as I used to, but one thing that he knows is how to deliver for the American people.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So that's from the White House briefing room, complete with a damn truck backing up just outside the press briefing. I mean, it's the White House. You can tell the truck to wait till the briefing is over, for goodness sakes. Well, we got a lot more to talk about, but right now we got to take a break for news. Here's Jay Harper at 5:31.
Good afternoon, 5:31 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got sunny conditions, 96 hot degrees. The latest traffic report and a weather forecast are just a couple of minutes away, so stand by. Hurricane Beryl, now a Category 4, is pushing toward the Caribbean. It's expected to impact Jamaica and the Dominican Republic sometime tomorrow. This is a big storm. It was a Category 5. The earliest a hurricane of that intensity has ever occurred during any hurricane season. It's currently packing sustained winds of about 155 miles per hour. ABC's Michelle Franzen has more.
Hurricane Beryl churning in the Caribbean and packed with deadly winds and storm surge. The band's already causing coastal flooding in Puerto Rico, and tourists in Jamaica racing to get a flight out of Montego Bay before officials closed airports. New Orleans resident Tiffany George.
My flight was overbooked, so I had to scramble and find a flight today, so hopefully this one don't cancel on me.
Beryl is already blamed for at least 6 deaths in the Lesser Antilles, including Venezuela and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, a disturbing story where a man has been charged with stabbing his wife and setting her and their home on fire after a domestic dispute. News 2 reports that when crews got to a home on North Charlotte Street in Dixon, Tennessee, they found heavy smoke and a woman with multiple stab wounds to her upper back and chest and a knife still protruding from her. According to documents, 28-year-old Zachary Mole of Dixon, he approached one of the officers at the scene and said, quote, "I did it. It was me," unquote. The TBI said agents determined that Mole attacked his wife, doused her with gasoline, then set her and the home on fire. His wife was then transported to Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville, where she remains. Mole is charged with attempted first-degree murder, aggravated arson, and aggravated domestic-related assault, among other charges. As of this afternoon, he remained in custody at the Dixon County Jail on $765,000 bond. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
There is a lot going on in the news, and I don't want to short shrift stuff happening here locally, so I want to just spend a few moments talking about some of the Tennessee stories that I think are pretty important. The Tennessee Star has yet another story about the Covenant School shooting and the documents that they have. And by the way, some of these documents we also had. Covenant School killer Audrey Elizabeth Hale avoided commitment on 3 separate occasions. Her parents told Metro Nashville Police Department investigators in a June 12, 23 interview. It's according to a transcript obtained by the Tennessee Star. This is the same transcript that we obtained and actually did sound clips from. The transcript reveals Ronald and Norma Hale told investigators doctors wanted to commit her daughter for inpatient treatment over an eating disorder, and that Audrey Hale was twice considered for inpatient commitment after she expressed suicidal ideation to mental health professionals. However, she never did. She was given intensive outpatient therapy for that. So there's, again, another drip in that particular story. This is just, again, you wonder, what kind of town has Nashville become? It's getting to be a rough town. Homicide investigation underway after a man beaten Saturday night outside of a golf facility, that's Top Golf in East Nashville. He died from his injuries Tuesday morning, that's today. Police said 41-year-old Dahal Umesh was among members of Nashville's Nepali community attending a concert at Top Golf's lower level when an argument happened inside, causing those involved to go outside into the parking lot. Umesh was allegedly trying to defuse the situation when someone punched him, causing him to fall and hit his head on the concrete. He was then kicked in the head while on the ground, according to investigators. Over the course of the investigation, detectives identified 26-year-old Bishal Rai as the man believed to have kicked Umesh in the head. Police said Rai was found at his home in Bombettle Lane in Antioch Monday. I hope I'm getting that name right. And was taken to custody on an aggravated assault charge. Wow, tough. That according, of course, to Channel 2. Tennessee is among the top states for gun sales at the beginning of 2024. Data from FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS, was analyzed by safehomes.org to determine which states had the largest ownership of recently purchased firearms. In the analysis, they found that almost 5.5 million guns have been sold nationwide in the first 4 months of 2024. The study comes after a watch list from the federal government was obtained by USA Today showing which gun stores in the country were selling the most guns. Tennessee had more than 40 stores on the list. Tennessee is the only state on both the list for guns sold total and most guns sold adjusted for population. Even with all these purchases in 2024, Tennessee's total gun sales went down by 4% from 2022 and 2023. So here it is, states that sell the most guns. Number 1 is Texas. Number 2, I think you could see this coming, Florida. Number 3, surprisingly, California. Number 4, Pennsylvania. Tennessee's number 5 was 633,015 weapons purchased during that time period. When you adjust for population, we come in 7th. The number of guns sold per 10,000 residents. If you had to guess, Chris, how many guns do you think are sold in Tennessee for every 10,000 people of population, residents 21 years and older?
I'll say 500.
No, much too low.
Low? Wow, okay. 2,000.
No, that's a little high. 1,207.
Oh, in the middle.
For every 10,000 residents, there are 1,200 guns sold. That's really quite something. So there you go. And then again, folks, I hate this story. I hate reading this story, but it is such an important story. I don't want to nag at you, but somebody has to. From WZTV, 423 guns stolen from Nashville vehicles in the first 6 months of this year. We just hit the 6-month point. Metro Nashville Police advises Nashvillians to lock their car doors after a report that 423 out of 594 guns stolen this year were taken from vehicles. This is down, 36% decrease year over year. And Metro Nashville launched a special initiative designed to combat car theft and related criminal activity. Since then, there have been 589 arrests and recoveries of 318 stolen vehicles and 119 guns, so good work there. But still, that there are 423 guns stolen from vehicles in Nashville in 6 months suggests we have more work to do. I mean, folks, when I understand, everybody that I know has a gun in the car, and you know, and that it's allowed under the law in the state of Tennessee, in most cases. But you got to lock your car, right? You know, I go as far as I had a safe built into the center hold. It's an actual combination safe. So if I'm not, you know, again, if I need to go somewhere and I want to hand the keys off to the valet, gun goes in the safe, lock it up, right? But if I'm going to be, you know, not in the car, gun goes in the safe, lock it up. But one way or the other, at least lock your damn doors, okay? I won't go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about this, but, you know, with great rights come great responsibilities, and with the Second Amendment right, the responsibility to make sure that you keep guns locked up from those who should not have them. I haven't done this story, mainly not because I don't think it's a great story. I think it is a fascinating story, but I've just been so busy with other stuff. It has to do with the company Tractor Supply. Now, I'm like most of you. I love going to the Tractor Supply. I mean, I love that store. I mean, I go in there and I find stuff. I mean, it's one of my favorite places to go shopping. And, you know, a lot of my wardrobe comes from the Tractor Supply. You may be shocked to know this. No, if you've seen me dress, you probably know you don't. No, I mean, I find clothes that fit me there. You know, for some reason, it's just a place where I can get big man clothes. But there's been a real controversy about Tractor Supply because of its owner, who has been apparently a big contributor and a big believer in DEI, climate change, going through making all the employees go through a bunch of LGBTQ plus training. Well, word got out about all this, and I'm telling you, it went across social media like wildfire, and a lot of people who have been going to Tractor Supply forever suddenly decided they weren't going to go to Tractor Supply. This is the whole thing. This is the whole beer thing. This is the Bud Light thing. This is a Target thing. This is, people find out about the things that are going on with the ownership of the company, not necessarily the people who work there, and they say, well, I don't want to support that person. Now comes the story that they are dropping their DEI, their LGBTQ plus inclusion training, and their climate change initiatives. June 27th, Tractor Supply on social media, the changes they hope would live up to the views of its consumers. In the post, the Brentwood-based company said it would ensure activities and give tie directly to our business, The statement came in response to criticism regarding the company's diversity, climate, and inclusion efforts. This, according to the Tennessean. Tractor Supply had goals that focused on environmental, social, and social governance, ESG. Many of the goals included working on diversity in the company, making it a place where all workers and customers feel comfortable. In a 21 opinions submitted to the Tennessean, CEO Hal Lawton wrote that the company was, quote, significantly reducing their energy and water consumption, materially increasing the gender and ethnicity diversity of their board and managing executive committee, conducting unconscious bias training for over 40,000 team members, implementing a new 6-week paid parental leave policy for full-time salary and hourly team members. He also wrote the company had long-term goals, which included the following: reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 20%, double the number of stores where team members mirror the communities they serve, increase people of color at the management level and above 50%, increasing funding to programs and education for Black and African American. Some of these things are not bad, but some of them really do sort of strike a nerve with conservatives, and a lot of conservatives go to the Tractor Supply. 2026, they want to increase spending with diverse suppliers. By 2030, they will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50%. Who started the campaign? It was Robbie Starbuck, former Hollywood director turned conservative activist, who said it's time to expose Tractor Supply, talked about some of it, and it caught fire and became a real problem for the folks at Tractor Supply. They saw what happened to Bud Light. They saw what happened to Target. They saw what happened to a lot of companies that became woke, and then they were well on their way to becoming broke very quickly. Campaign against the company seemed to have worked, as the Financial Times reported. It knocked 5% off the share price in the past month. Hence, Tractor Supply's quick response to the public demands. They will no longer submit data to the Human Rights Campaign. They will refocus the team member engagement groups on mentoring, networking, and supporting the business. Focus on rural America priorities, including agricultural education, animal welfare, veterans causes, being a good neighbor. Stop sponsoring non-business activities like pride festivals and voter campaigns. Eliminate DEI roles and retire current DEI goals while still ensuring a respectful environment. You can have that and not buy into all of that DEI nonsense. Withdraw carbon emission goals and focus on land and water conservation efforts. Somebody got a hold of a good crisis manager. That's what happened. Tractor Supply primarily focuses on providing power equipment, pet supplies, outdoor equipment, and home improvement supplies. They are in competition with places. It's a different kind of store, but really some of their competitors are Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, and John Deere. So there they go. They have heard the message, they say, and they are moving to make changes. But here's the thing. I mean, do people forget? People still have not forgotten about the Bud Light thing. You know, Bud Light. That company lost millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So when these things start to happen, companies are wise to get a good crisis manager and make some changes. The ownership is the same, but the priorities of the company I think they got their as they say, their rapt attention. 51 past the hour.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Good evening. It's 6 p.m. and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've still got plenty of sun. We're at 94 degrees. The latest traffic report and a weather forecast in just a few minutes. President Biden has agreed to an exclusive interview with ABC News and George Stephanopoulos on Friday. He's doing that, he claims, to address the fallout from his debate performance. A growing number of Democrats are calling on Mr. Biden to step aside, saying the party needs time to select a younger candidate in order to defeat Donald Trump in November. ABC's Rick Klein says Biden has done little to ease concerns following the debate.
Explain away the performance or to explain that it wasn't nearly as bad, I think start to fall away when you see this play out the way it has in the last couple of days. And it has been extraordinary to have not just the poor performance, the universally recognized poor performance, but then several days where there hasn't been anything that's really been done to try to rectify it.
Turning now to the Middle East. In Israel, military officials are pushing for a ceasefire in Gaza in order to avoid a larger conflict with the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah to Israel's north up in Lebanon. The conflict's on two fronts, pressuring Israel's military. ABC's Matt Gutman is in Tel Aviv.
There is an agreement on the table, brokered by the U.S. Both sides have known the basic parameters, but Hezbollah said it can only enter into this ceasefire, only sign the deal once there is a ceasefire in Gaza, because it launched this fight against Israel, they said, in solidarity with the Palestinians.
Heading now to the Caribbean waters, where Hurricane Beryl, now a Category 4 hurricane, but still very dangerous. ABC News spoke with American tourists in Montego Bay, Jamaica, as they tried to get out ahead of the hurricane. Cody Robles spoke with ABC News. He and his family are heading back to South Texas, but guess what? The storm may hit there.
We've been watching the weather the whole time. And it just so happened it landed perfect where we're leaving right before it hits. And now we're leaving, we're going to South Texas where it could hit us again.
Here in Music City, so far this year, 423 guns have been stolen from vehicles in Nashville. 11 were taken from cars just last week. The total number of guns stolen this year in Davidson County alone, 594. Which means that 71% of guns stolen so far this year have been taken from vehicles. Going hand in hand with items taken from vehicles is vehicle theft. According to the release from the Nashville Police Department, too many automobiles remain easy targets because the keys are left in them. Just like guns taken from vehicles, police say these stolen autos are also routinely involved in criminal activities, including carjackings and robberies. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, hour number 4. Good evening on this second day of July. It's by the way, I haven't talked about it at all. It's hot outside, 94 degrees today. And you know, we've already hit our peak. What was, you know what the peak was today by any chance?
I saw 95. I don't know if it was any higher than that, though.
No. All right. So plenty warm outside. And plenty warm in Washington right now, where the drumbeat continues. I mean, there's a lot of talk about two things. Number one, will Joe Biden step down as the candidate? Number two, will Joe Biden step down as president? I mean, these two things are actively being discussed in an open way, and the questioning today in the White House briefing room is beyond unbelievable. People were asking questions of, does our president have Alzheimer's? Is our president, losing his mind? All kinds of things, have been discussed, in the White House briefing room today that, just hard to imagine. And I remember my old friend Sam Donaldson used to have a saying about scandals. And when there was a scandal brewing in Washington, it would reach a point where, Donaldson would say, well, the sharks are circling and there's blood in the water. And it was that things had reached critical mass. And one gets the sense, as someone who covered that town for a lot of years and understands how the things start to build and build and build. We're seeing things build, and we are getting close to critical mass, and something's going to have to give. Now, if you look at what's happening, the Biden people are putting on, we're not going anywhere. They got several things planned. They're going to do a big interview with George Stephanopoulos, and that's going to run. There's going to be a clip of it on the news on Friday, and then they'll run the longer interview on Sunday, and they're trying to show, well, he's still got it. He needs to do a big newsmaker interview. President of the United States sits down with George. Well, George is the most sympathetic person they could turn to. They're not going to give it to somebody who would ask real questions. They're not going to give it to a news institution that would make sure that, that there was no pulling of punches. And by the way, this will not be live. I'd like to see it go live. That'd be the best way. And the next best thing to that is to convince everybody that you didn't clean it up in the edit room. Trust me when I say you can clean a lot up in the edit room. But the only way that you get around, the accusation that you cleaned up the interview, and that accusation will be leveled against ABC News, is that you post on the internet the raw tape. The raw interview from the moment he walks in to the time he gets done, so that everybody can see that you did a fair and honest edit. I mean, it's not a bad thing to edit for time, but I mean, you cannot, edit out long lapses, long pauses, obvious mistakes. You just can't. And so there's a lot of eyes going to be looking at ABC News to see how they handled that, quite frankly. The number of people who have been calling for the president to step down as at least the candidate is growing. Lloyd Doggett, 77-year-old progressive Democrat from the state of Texas, said he wants him to step down. First sitting Democrat to say that. Moderate Democrat Jared Golden, a Democrat from Maine, has got an op-ed in the Bangor, Maine newspaper, the Bangor Daily News. If you haven't read the Bangor Daily News, you don't know anything about what's going on. You got to keep up with the Bangor Daily News. In an op-ed column published today, Jared Golden said President Biden's disastrous debate performance last week was, quote, not a surprise and did not rattle him as much as it had others. Listen to what he says. The outcome of the 2024 presidential election has been clear to me for months. While I don't plan to vote for him, Donald Trump is going to win, and I'm okay with that, he wrote in the Bangor Daily News. Golden said he rejected the premise that democracy itself was at stake, and should Trump win the election. Well, that's what they say. Golden's op-ed comes after Democrat Lloyd Doggett of Texas became the first to say that he needed to step down. Chris, are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I lost your picture, so I just want to make sure we're all right. You know, sometimes I'm in the dark if we're off the air, so I just want to make sure. The numbers. Let's look at some numbers. And these numbers, I don't like to throw a lot of numbers at you, but I mean, these numbers, I've got to talk about these numbers. The real question here is, okay, are the numbers going to be impacted in a big way by the debate performance? And a lot of people say, well, listen, if the numbers start to go south because of that debate performance, then, it's all over. You're going to have to step down. A lot of people will no longer stand with him if that happens. So let's look at the latest numbers. CNN has a general election poll. Both the two-way and the five-way say the same thing. If the election were held today and it was Trump and Biden, or if it was Trump, Biden, RFK, West, and Stein, either way, Trump would win by 6 points. That's a big one. Now, that's not out of line with some other polls. Harvard-Harris has a poll that says that if it's a two-way matchup, Trump wins by 4. If it's a five-way matchup, the Harvard-Harris poll says that Trump would win by 8. That would be an absolute landslide. Now, USA Today has one out, says Trump wins by 3 in a general election matchup if it were held today. And I want to be honest, and I want to be above board. There is this one poll out there, the TIP poll, which traditionally leans toward the blue. I want to be honest about that as well. The TIP poll says that Biden would win by 2. But most of the polls that I'm seeing suggest that if the election were held today, something has happened, something has shifted, something is starting to happen. And that's not even the most of it. Listen to this. You know my feeling that you have to look at the battleground states. The battleground states are where elections are decided. And I'm going to pull up the electoral map, the Real Clear Politics electoral map. Okay. In Pennsylvania, a new poll comes out from an organization called Signal, CYGNAL, says that in Pennsylvania, Trump leads by 4. In a two-way, it would be, in the five-way, it would be Trump plus 2. Plus 5 in the five-way. That's right. So there you go. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm misreading my own handwriting. It is plus 4 in both the two-way and the five-way. So in Pennsylvania, a key, absolutely important battleground state, Trump leads by 4 points, according to this latest poll. We told you about a poll taken in Michigan. Trump leads by 4. Now, we also had a story yesterday about Governor Gretchen Whitmer had sent the word to the campaign, the Biden campaign, that after the debate, it appeared to her that Michigan was out of reach for Biden. Now, she has strongly denied that today, but of course she would, right? Because it got leaked out, and if that's what she said, she's taken it back. But, I think she said it. I think she just got embarrassed that it got reported. So Pennsylvania up by 4, Michigan up by 4. We've seen stories that suggest that Minnesota is in play. You would have never guessed that. Wisconsin, I don't know. I think Wisconsin's going to be very, very tight. Virginia is now was going to be a blue state, but it's now it's a toss-up state. But the thing that caught my eye today, that I went, wow, is that New Hampshire is now a toss-up state. New Hampshire, a toss-up state. So I'm going to go to my 270 to win map, and I'm going to do just a couple of quick things here. So we're going to take New Hampshire now as a toss-up state. As it stands right now, I'm giving North Carolina, I think Trump's going to win it. Georgia, I think Trump's going to win it. Arizona, I think Trump's going to win it. Nevada, I think the polling has been pretty solid. I think Nevada is a win. Now, if you leave Minnesota blue, which I will for now, then you have these states that I think are potential battleground states. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and New Hampshire. All right? Now, with all of those still being, we're not awarding any delegates there, Trump sits at 268. He's just two electoral college votes away with that college, with that makeup, from winning the presidency if this plays out the way I think it's going to play out. If he wins Wisconsin, he has 278 votes, more than enough to become president. But let's give that one back to the neutral. If he wins Michigan, he wins by 283 votes. Remember, he's up by 4 in Michigan, and the governor says she thinks it's out of reach. Pennsylvania, the poll I just told you shows he's up by 4. If he picks up Pennsylvania, he gets 287 electoral college votes. So let's put that one back into the toss-up category. What about the Commonwealth of Virginia? If he were to win that, 281. So, and then just for fun, let's throw in New Hampshire. He gets 272 if he wins New Hampshire. So, what I'm telling you here is that all of these states that are in play, and that even leaves Minnesota in the blue category. 1, 2, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Hampshire. Any one of those one states would put him over if I'm right about the way I think this map is shaping up. It's truly remarkable. Truly remarkable. He's looking good. It's looking good. Now, it's early. Things can happen. We may have a completely different candidate, and that mixes everything up. We start from ground zero then. We look at whoever they choose, and we look at where they are. But I want to give you this. I'll leave you with this thought. There's a company out there called SRSS, and they've done polling to say, okay, well, if it's not Biden and it's somebody else, how do they compare against Trump? If it's Gretchen Whitmer, Trump wins by 5. If it's Pete Buttigieg, Trump wins by 4. If it's Gavin Newsom, Trump wins by 5. If it's Kamala Harris, it's the tightest. They say that Trump would win by 2, but still she's within striking distance, right? The worst performer is Biden, because Biden says if the election were held today, Trump would win by 6. So the numbers out there suggest that Harris would be the best choice, and there's a lot of other reasons why Kamala Harris might well be the choice. And I'm going to share all that with you coming up in just a moment. Right now, it is 20 minutes past the hour. Time for a break. Starting to think about back to school and sports physicals, Grace Point provides complete physicals for kids of all ages. This is what you count on. Family medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Grace Point Healthcare. Are you scheduling an international vacation, or perhaps, it happens a lot this time of year. Are you planning a church mission trip? Grace Point offers complete travel immunizations and is CDC certified for yellow fever and all other international immunization protocols. And because they will see you the same day or the next day, you don't have to wait days or weeks, sometimes longer, to see the doctor. That's modern medicine at your convenience. Grace Point Healthcare is affordable, comprehensive, and it is convenient. Really important. Medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. They are located on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 615-599-6868. That is 615-599-6868 to schedule an appointment.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
And the fallout from President Biden's poor debate performance continues, and it's starting to bubble up among Democrats. And we'll have today's closing money news. That's all coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Jay Harper in the newsroom. Jay, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, is it just me, or as you look at this stuff that's happening out of Washington, this thing is really starting to come fast and furious, isn't it?
Yes, and it seems like the pace is starting to pick up. You know, and I know they're hoping that maybe they can just kind of get through the weekend and this story will go away. I don't see that happening at all, especially as now Democrats are starting to weigh in and question the president's mental acuity.
Well, you know, it's the drumbeat. The drumbeat is picking up. First you hear it off in the distance, and then it gets louder. Yeah. And it gets louder. Each and every story that crosses the wire, you wonder, what will happen next?
But you know,
will Joe Biden survive?
It's going to be. It's going to have to be the big guys, though, Brian, the Obamas and the Bill Clintons and all that. I think before I don't know, maybe before that other shoe drops. I don't know.
Listen, I think I've said from the beginning. I think that it has to be Obama. I think you have to have Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. I don't know, maybe some other key players have all got to walk in there. I mean, it's going to be like they'll have to be sitting in the Oval Office when he arrives for work, and they said, "Ooh, what are you guys doing here?" You know, and I mean, I think honestly, I think it's going to take that. I mean, he's doing some things Like he's going to meet with the Democrat governors, either virtually or in person, what I'm hearing. Because the Democrat governors apparently got on a phone call last night, and the conversation said, turned to, we got to replace him. We got to replace him. Right. We're going to lose. The Democrats care more about beating Trump than they do about what's right for the nation. I don't. That's my opinion. You don't have to sign on to that. But I think that's what happens here. And I think they the one thing that unifies Democrats is how much they hate Trump.
They hate Trump. I tell you, though, Brian, this has all the earmarks, though, with Biden of an intervention. It's almost like he and his family are in denial, but, he's got Jill and Hunter in his ear. They don't want to relinquish their power that the hubby provides. Right. So,
and by the way, the staff is the same way. The staff, it's powerful to be a staffer at the White House. And I think they all feel like, well, I owe this position to this guy, so I owe him my loyalty. But the loyalty causes them to sort of surround the wagons, circle the wagons around the candidate and make sure people don't see the things that, we all kind of see it, right? But we're going to make sure that the American people don't see it. We're going to protect our guy. The guy who gave us this cool job we have.
Yeah, but this guy isn't going to be around forever, and don't you risk your long-term credibility? I don't know.
I think they're thinking a lot more short-term.
Yeah, true.
I think they all come unified in this hatred they have for Trump. Kamala Harris would be the most likely replacement, according to many people who are looking at this thing. You go, what? And I say, well, give me all the Kamala Harris that you want, because, I'm not sure that she will do very well in all of that. There's that unfortunate thing that she has. Now, that'll get old real quick, won't it? So anyway, there's that. But the other thing is that apparently, though, they say if you're in a matchup, she does okay. She's still behind Trump, but does better than a lot of the other people whose names have been mentioned, if you believe these polls. There's a lot of reasons why. Here's the main reason. There's this, I love this soundbite. This is a California Democratic delegate to the convention, Areva Martin. She is talking with Stephen A. Smith on Stephen A. Smith's show. And she is saying basically, if you dump Biden and don't go with Kamala Harris, there's going to be trouble.
First of all, Stephen, who are we agreeing? There's a long list of Democrats: Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer. The list goes on and on and on. You've named 4 or 5 people. Where is their consensus? You've got to build consensus, and there is not consensus right now. If you pick a white man over Kamala Harris, black women, I can tell you this, we're going to walk away. We're going to blow the party up. If you pick the black woman...
Where you going to walk away to, Areva? Where you going to walk away to? You going to walk away? You ain't going to walk away to Trump?
Over Kamala Harris. So where are we getting agreement from on who this ideal Democratic candidate should be? Tell me that. Nobody's told me who it should be. And then tell me how you're going to get the 4,000 delegates, which I am one of them. I'm a delegate coming from California. So who's going to step out? One, tell Joe Biden you got to step aside, because everybody's not being mature about this process.
Yeah, did you get the impression that there'll be problems if they try to go around Kamala Harris? I think there will be problems. And the black voters could blow up the Democrat Party. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. We got so much more to talk about. We'll be back after the news, 6:30. It just turned 6:31 now on Super Talk 99.7.
Good evening, 6:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's still pretty darn hot, 94 degrees with some sun. We've got a full forecast and a traffic report on the way. Well, it's all that we've been talking about. It is indeed the top of the news as the fallout from President Biden's poor debate performance continues. However, Mr. Biden remaining defiant in the face of calls for him to step aside and allow the Democratic Party to find a new candidate for president. A growing number of Democrats expressing concerns, including within the president's own inner circle. Here's ABC's political director Rick Klein with his take from Washington.
These are people that are on Joe Biden's side. They want to see him win. They want to see Donald Trump defeated. They want to see a Democrat in the White House. And they are worried, not just because they saw a bad night, but because they saw someone who they thought had such a poor performance that there were larger concerns and concerns about the transparency about people around him. The fact that there were so few discussions with Capitol Hill leaders, with some of the nation's Democratic governors, suggests that there was a kind of a protection around the president that has a lot of them alarmed that maybe this is bigger than just a bad night.
Turning now to our closing money news. Let's do it with Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now stocks heading for record levels again. The Dow closed up 162 points. The S&P and the Nasdaq at all-time highs. The S&P up 34, the Nasdaq 149 on the plus side. Some encouraging news about inflation from the head of the Fed. Chair Jerome Powell taking part in a monetary policy conference panel discussion in Portugal. Says inflation is slowing again, but adds the central bank needs to see more movement toward the 2% target rate before it will consider cutting interest rates. Job openings rose slightly to 8.1 million in May, up from a revised 7.9 million the month before. Layoffs rose slightly, and the number of Americans quitting their jobs, a sign of confidence they'll find another one, was basically unchanged. Tesla sales fell for the second straight quarter despite price cuts and low interest financing offers, but the numbers were still better than analysts had expected.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Let me talk to you about the folks over at United Structural Systems. They've been around since '94, more than 25,000 satisfied residential customers. I mean, they've actually been in business now for 30 years, 3 decades. They are the place you go if you have foundation problems. You know all the things that you need to look out for there. Are your bricks cracking? Are your walls bowing? Are your doors or windows sticking? Is the drywall separating? Stair-step cracks and masonry mortar joints? Is your chimney tilting or leaning? All signs of a possible foundation issue, and these are the people that you want to call. There's another thing that they do. They lift concrete that has sunken, cracked. I mean, you have a sinking slab or patio steps. Are your porch steps tilted? Has your sidewalk or patio shifted? Sidewalk or patio creating a trip hazard or potentially dangerous situation? What about your pool deck? You've got cracks out there? Well, I mean, they have this USS Polylift system, which will actually put things nice, plumb level, and will look great, by the way. You can walk on it immediately, drive on it in 30 minutes. No unsightly patches or blemishes. They say don't replace it, raise it, raise it. That's the better way to go. You can actually, it's cheaper to do that. To raise it than it is to replace it. That's much more expensive. 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. Learn more about all the things they can do for you by going to the website, ussTN.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
There are some other stories that I want to squeeze in before we leave here in a few minutes and hand it over to Mark Levin. I bet Mark Levin's going to have some things to say today. What do you want to bet? The sentencing of Donald Trump, which was scheduled for July 11th, that was next Thursday, has been postponed. The idea was, I mean, they were going to, that this was going to be a pretty big news day. But they decided to push it off until September 18th. Now, what's going on? It has a lot to do with yesterday's big Supreme Court decision with regard to immunity. They think that there are parts of the Supreme Court decision that impact that case, and they want to run it up and down the appellate system and raise some arguments about that. And they may be right, entirely true. But the judge said today, Judge Juan Merchan said, you know what? If you want to wait till September, the DA didn't have any objection to it. That's fine with us. So what does that really mean? It means that for Trump, the next legal entanglement, the next time he has to show up in a courtroom somewhere, is probably going to be September 18th. And there's a possibility that the case goes away because of the Supreme Court decision yesterday. All the other cases are so tangled up in the appellate process and with the reeling from this Supreme Court decision that came down yesterday, like the documents case that is pending against Trump with Jack Smith. I got to tell you, there is a real question here about whether or not that case will go forward at all. Here is Ellie Honig, who's the legal analyst over at CNN, talking about how he thinks the Supreme Court decision yesterday completely blows up the Jack Smith case on documents against Trump.
How big of a deal is it, this part? You've written about this. Yeah. It's not just what's official and not official. It's also prosecutors cannot even introduce evidence of an official act as part of a prosecution. Yeah. That means what?
That is the biggest surprise in yesterday's ruling. It was no surprise that the Supreme Court said, prosecutors, you cannot charge somebody based on an official act. What caught me by surprise, I think everybody, is they said, and you can't even introduce evidence of an official act as part of your trial presentation. I mean, when you're trying a case as a prosecutor, a lot of your evidence is stuff that's not a crime in and of itself, but it's necessary to tell the story. It's necessary to explain the narrative, the context. And so now, for example, in the January 6th case, apparently Jack Smith can't even let the jury know about Donald Trump's communications with DOJ, which are a central part of the whole story. So that indictment is going to get torn to shreds by the time the courts are done with it. We'll see if there's even enough left there for Jack Smith to ever bring this case to trial. By the way, no way this case gets tried, or any of the remaining cases get tried before the election. That much is now clear.
Yeah, that's the only certainty right now.
That's about it.
It's good to see you, Ellie.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, how about that? So, that whole case could vanish because of the Supreme Court decision. By the way, liberals lost their minds yesterday over what the Chief Justice wrote in that ruling that said that official acts are covered, unofficial acts are not, and he sent it back to the lower court with a bunch of other legal instructions that say how you should proceed with this case, and said figure out what was an official act and what was not an unofficial act, what was an unofficial act. So that thing's tied up forever. It's going to be a long time. So again, no further courtroom entanglements between now and the election as far as I can see, with the exception of that possible sentencing on September 18th. But, they're not going to, I just can't imagine they're going to give him jail time for that. And even if they did, it's an immediate appeal. So anything that they hand down can be appealed up the line, and that will keep it tied up forever and a day, as best I can tell. So there you have that. I think that is pretty important news to look at. Getting back to our current president for just a moment, they are apparently going to, I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't think that anything, if it doesn't happen between now and the weekend, I don't think anything's going to happen with Joe Biden next week at all. And you want to know why? NATO. Everybody's coming to Washington for the big NATO meeting. I mean, you'll have the French and the Italian prime minister, and you'll have, the prime minister of the UK, and you'll have all of the big world leaders will be in Washington for meetings with Biden. It just doesn't seem likely that anybody's going to try to replace the president while all these other world leaders are in Washington for meetings with the current president of the United States. I mean, what are you going to do? Everybody arrives and you say, gosh, I'm sorry, but we're going through a little constitutional crisis here. Why don't you guys go back home? We'll try to schedule, when we figure out who our president is, we'll get back in touch with you. No, they're not going to do that. So I sort of think that everybody, at least, nobody will be pushing for this to happen next week. By the way, the White House is planning sort of a blitz to kind of, show people that Joe Biden is, well, he's still capable. He's still out there. White House announced Tuesday the president will meet with congressional leaders and Democrat governors, sit for a television network interview, hold a press conference in the coming days, a blitz designed to push back against growing pressure for the 81-year-old president to step aside in the 2024 race after his disastrous performance. We really want to turn the page on this, said Karine Jean-Pierre of the intensifying calls for Biden to bow out. She added the president had no intention of stepping aside, characterizing the debate failings as simply evidence of a bad night for a man who had a cold. He had a cold. You know what I think about the cold. I think the cold. I don't think there was any cold. I think they came up with that. By the way, they asked her today, what kind of cold medicine is he on? Oh, he's not on any cold medicine. She said, what kind of medicines is he taking? She said, he's not taking any cold medicines. And that was all. So there you have, Biden says he blamed it on jet lag after 2 back-to-back European trips. And then, but he had 7 days. You take a trip and then you go immediately to Camp David for 7 days. You could get over jet lag in 7 days. I've had jet lag. I know what that is, and it can really make you goofy. I promise you it can. But 7 days, you can pretty much get over it. Usually it's about 24 hours, most 36, and you're sort of back to normal. So he's making all of these excuses. I don't know what to think about it. I think that they're throwing out a bunch of hooey. But again, thinking about this NATO meeting, I'm not sure I would expect anything to happen. Other news that I want to try to throw into the hopper here before we get wrapped up. Republicans on the powerful House committee say, one Republican on a House committee says, the GOP has the vote to hold Garland in inherent contempt of Congress. Now, he's already been found in contempt of Congress, and they sent that over to the Justice Department, and they said, well, no, we're not going to prosecute the Attorney General of the Department of Justice Department is not going to prosecute the man in charge of the Justice Department. That wasn't going to ever go anywhere. And this all has to do with them wanting the Biden tapes from the interview with special counsel Bob Hur, the one where, Bob Hur came out and said, based on that interview, if we were to bring charges against the president of the United States, we don't think we could get a conviction because the jury would look at him as a well-meaning old man with a poor memory. We want to hear that tape. We don't want to just read the transcript. We want to hear it. Everybody wants to know exactly how that went down. And they said no. So then they've said, well, then you're in contempt of our request. And then the Department of Justice said, well, we're not going to prosecute it. So there, that's the end of that. Well, now there's another thing that can happen. Inherent contempt, not just contempt, but inherent contempt of Congress. Now, what that means is it's a different level of contempt. And the articles have already been filed by Representative Anna Paulina Luna. And basically it would allow the House of Representatives, I would love to see this happen, this would be so cool, to send over the Sergeant at Arms for the House of Representatives to arrest the Attorney General of the United States. Apparently they have the choice of putting him in a jail, a regular jail, or the Capitol Hill jail. Can you imagine such a thing? That the House of Representatives would send over the Sergeant at Arms to arrest the Attorney General of these United States, haul him back to Capitol Hill and put him in the holding cell there. I guess there's a holding cell there. I never saw it. I don't know, but I assume there's one there because, people do break the law on Capitol Hill and they have to be held. So I think there is a holding cell in the police complex part of the building. We weren't allowed to go back there, so I don't know. And they say they've got the votes to do this. Supreme Court today ducked a ruling on whether AR-15s are protected by the Second Amendment. It was declining for now to hear challenges to an Illinois ban on assault weapons, cases that have quickly turned into a major test of the legality of the AR-15. Clarence Thomas said he wanted them to bring the case, but everybody else decided not to. So it was they took a pass on that particular story and that particular case, and it will not come before the highest court in the land. 50 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.